Hello, everybody. Welcome to Ed Counselor, where we are building a one stop platform to help high school students and families navigate academics, extracurriculars, college applications, and career planning, combining expert backed resources with AI support to make guidance more accessible and personalized. And today I'm with my guest, Mr. Aneesh Komarigiri, and I would like to thank him so much for giving us his time today.
No, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so Anish, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, what you're studying, and what year you are?
Absolutely, yeah. So I'm Aneesh. I'm from LA, Los Angeles. I'm currently studying computer science. I'm in my fourth year, doing a bachelor's of science in computer science, and yeah, that's pretty much what I'm up to right now.
Nice. So, what drew you into the field of computer science?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, growing up, I was huge into video games. And I know a lot of people who are in my major, are kind of interested in computer science because of a background in video games and
In video games. Yeah.
understanding multiplayer games. Um, and so when I was younger, I was just always so curious about how games work. How characters are made, how characters interact with characters, and
Definitely.
how
Yeah.
this world is kind of built on, and you see it on a screen, but there's so much more going on than just what's on the screen, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Definitely.
so that's kind of what drew me into it. So then I got kind of into, um, programming a little bit, basic like graphics and stuff like that,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
understanding how to create blocks and stuff like that, visuals. And yeah, that's kind of what got me into computer science and what, got me into programming.
Awesome. No, I love that. It's a very cliche story. I can definitely say, like, my Minecraft
Yeah.
phase as a kid definitely got me looking at computer science.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So, for students and even the parents listening, how would you explain computer science beyond, like, what it actually is beyond just the common stereotypes that we hear?
Okay, yeah, that's a great question. So, common stereotypes for computer science. I would say, a lot of parents just think, computer science is just programming and programming and programming. You just
Yeah.
understand how to program and code. I really think computer science is not just about programming. Even if you want it to be, it's a lot more math than people realize. It's literally
Yeah,
computer science. It's the science of how computers work. And that comes down to,
definitely.
assembly language, just the architecture of computers, just a lot of, computational models and a lot of complex mathematics, right? And that also might be one of the stereotypes. A lot of parents might think that, math is a huge part of computer science, and I'd say they're right. So
Yeah.
it's a lot more math than people think, and programming is a lot more later during the degree. I'd say like year 3, year 4 is when a
Oh,
lot of the
okay.
more
Yeah.
intensive programming comes in, like full, projects and stuff like that. But until then, it's a lot of math. It's a lot of calculus, linear algebra, computational models, like I said, stuff like that.
Yeah. Awesome. Definitely. So, what did your high school profile look like? And I know it's pre ancient history for you almost, but if you could go back and remember in terms of like, your course rigor, your GPA, and then like SAT, ACT if you took it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, it's pretty ancient, honestly, like you said.
Yeah.
I don't remember my specific GPA, but I do remember it was like quite average. I wasn't,
Okay.
insane student
Yeah. 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 Definitely.
academically, but it was pretty average. I do remember I took either 7 or 8 APs, and
Okay.
that really definitely helped kind of prepare myself for the college mindset, college course load.
Yeah.
Um, I believe a lot of them were. So one of them was AP Computer Science A, which really helped kind
Uh-huh.
of build my foundations in really important programming language called Java. And I didn't take the SAT, so I
Okay.
because I absolutely didn't need to, because most of my target schools were UCs.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
So, and they didn't really require the SAT.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was kind of my course rigor back then. I would put myself as like an average student, but I was definitely more active extracurricularly, I'd say.
Okay. So then you would think that, your extracurriculars and projects, all of that kind of had a heavier weight on your applications, or at least influence your decisions more than just like your generic profile?
Absolutely, yeah. I think that, because of the time that I was applying for colleges, it was a lot
Mhm.
more what they were calling it, like a holistic approach to
Yeah, yeah,
accepting
yeah.
students and stuff like that, instead of just blindly looking at SAT or ACT scores. So for me specifically, I definitely tried to focus on kind of building like a more well-rounded profile to myself, and that was a lot more influenced by my extracurriculars. Like I'm a singer. I've been singing for over 15 years, like ever since I was 5.
Oh,
Um,
wow, awesome.
and I also, I'm an Eagle Scout as well, so from Boy Scouts. So
Yeah,
that kind of pretty heavily, influenced the weightage of my application, I'd say.
Definitely. And it's because, those kinds of things give you stuff to write about, like learned experiences and collaboration with other people beyond, just the classroom.
Exactly. I mean, on paper, if you want stories to talk about, right? Especially for
Yeah,
your
yeah.
college essays, right? You don't want to talk about how you grinded for an exam and how you studied very well. You want to have stories to yourself, what you can tell, what you can talk about yourself, and that really came from extracurriculars, I'd say.
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
So, you know what? High school classes, electives, and like just early exposure to those kind of things helped you in preparing for the major. So, like, I know you talked about computer science A,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
then would you have anything else that kind of fits those lines?
Absolutely, yeah. So obviously one of them was AP Computer Science. I'd say that's number one because it
Yeah.
was, the AP format that really helped kind of understand kind of the college expectation for what your programming level needs to
Okay.
be before entering
Yeah, yeah,
college.
yeah.
That really helped.
Definitely.
But other than that, I took an elective called cybersecurity, which is not really offered in a lot of schools, but it did really help
Yeah.
also understand kind of how computer networks work, how,
Okay. Yeah.
packet loss works, how packets travel. Stuff like that, different protocols like HTTP, it's just stuff like that.
Basics.
Really
Yeah.
helped using a software called Wireshark, which kind of traces network packets and stuff like
Oh,
that to
that's cool.
understand the
Yeah.
flow of. Yeah, that really helped as well. So yeah, I'd say those two classes were probably the most pivotal in kind of shaping my early foundation of computer science or like just programming.
Okay, yeah. And then I know, part of like the AP computer science pathway, there's like AP computer science principles, which usually isn't prerequisite, but like comes first, and then AP computer science A. So did you take principles as well or no?
I didn't actually. That's a great point. I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah.
Yeah.
AP Computer Science Principles does come before AP Computer Science A. That is kind of the
Yeah.
prereq. But I already had some background in AP Computer Science or
Okay.
like just computer science
Yeah.
in general. So I was able to kind of take a test out exam for that, which
Oh,
was not like an
nice.
official thing or anything. But my professor allowed me to, or my teacher allowed me to
Allowed
uh,
you to
take
bridge
that at
the
the
course,
time
basically.
and then kind of skip AP Computer
Okay,
Science
awesome.
because
Yeah, which is
principles is
pretty convenient.
a lot more basic and fundamental.
Yeah,
Um,
because I remember I never took A, I took principles, but my
yeah.
experience in principles was like it was very basic, code.org. I mean, for someone who's a first time programmer, I would say it's very good. Like you learn, for loops, ifs and then statements and things like
Yeah,
that,
just
conditionals.
understanding, logic
But
flow and stuff like that,
yeah, 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 things like
conditionals.
that. But
Yeah.
if you've had like previous learning experience or like private tutoring in terms of programming, then yeah, I wouldn't really recommend it either.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. A lot of people who are, because I took AP Computer Science A when I was, I think a sophomore or a junior. I wanna say a sophomore,
Okay.
I think sophomore.
Yeah.
So at that point, I'd already kind of had a foundation of coding because I
A
started
general
that
idea.
in
Yeah,
middle
yeah,
school.
definitely.
So I kinda just wanted to skip it, but yeah.
So, what other programs or like experiences outside of just your academic work mattered the most for admissions that you would say, or even if not admissions, then like your early success in terms of like your college education career?
I would definitely say, starting on projects a lot earlier. A lot of
Hmm.
people kind of underestimate when you should start on kind of building your resume for internships and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah,
A
yeah,
lot of people start looking for
definitely.
internships way later into college. They don't think that they need that a lot early on, but I'd strongly recommend starting kind of developing like a GitHub repository of your work, your projects and stuff like that. Start on, and it can be anything. It doesn't have to be a full-fledged project. It can be small things like, I don't know, like a mini, world's hardest game or something like that,
Yeah,
from
yeah,
Cool Math Games or something. Just small things to kind of show, because people want to see your growth, right? People who are hiring you want to see
definitely.
your growth. They want to see that you started early and you developed and kept and maintained a portfolio of projects. So that really helped kind of preparing myself and kind of staying grounded in the major is
Hmm.
doing a lot of projects and kind of committing to those projects, not just having a
Okay,
bunch of
yeah,
tiny little projects, but starting with small, tiny projects and kind of building into medium length projects and having like more full length projects, I'd say. So a lot more focus on projects. Yeah.
yeah, definitely. So, is there anything else in terms of like clubs you did in high school or like any projects or besides project competitions and stuff that you did that you would say, like, even if not necessarily on your application, but just was that much better for your learning experience or like kept you that much more grounded in the major?
Definitely, yeah. In terms of clubs and, like, career fairs and stuff like that, I would probably say career fairs are really important. UC
Okay.
Santa Cruz doesn't, I mean, it has career fairs for sure, but it's not as, worthy of a time spend, I'd say.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'd much
Okay.
more focus on kind of building projects, like I said. But career fairs are definitely useful for networking. I'd say networking is a huge thing in computer science.
Yeah.
Just kind of understanding what's, the technologies out there, what people are working on, what different companies are doing, and just kind of like keeping yourself updated with the new technologies, right? Like what companies are doing, like I said, that's really, really important. That kind of helped me um, also gain a better understanding of where I wanted to place myself in the start of my career, where I want to
Yeah.
start building my career. Because I really do want to get started off in the AI field specifically. And I think
Okay.
networking like at career fairs really, really helps for that to kind of understand, where you want to get started. What are people up to and how can you fit in kind of, because there's a lot of
Definitely.
imposter syndrome going into it. There's a lot of, oh,
Yeah,
how
yeah.
how smart are all these people? Like I'm sure I'm not as smart as all these people. What are they up to and how can I
Yeah.
fit in? So I definitely say career fairs and networking can really help in
Okay.
college.
Definitely. So, and I know freshman year was a while ago, but if you could think of how you used your summers in high school and in college, almost like a roadmap, what would your guide be to like current students?
You're asking about summers after freshman year?
Yeah, in both high school and in college.
Okay, got you. Yeah, in high school, honestly, in high school, my summers were a lot more free in terms of just, it was just a lot more academics focused. High school,
Yeah,
I didn't really do as much over the summers. It was like grind time was during the school year,
the
and
school
then
year,
summers were a lot more just like kind of relaxing or just, preparing for APs and stuff like that,
stuff
honestly.
like that. Okay.
But looking back, I would say I would really get started on projects. Like that, I cannot stress that enough. The earlier you start on projects, like summer is
Yeah.
the golden time to start on developing projects, and starting kind of your portfolio. But now during college, um, summers, between college years, I'd say I'd spend a lot more time kind of applying for
Uh-huh.
internships, and also, just making sure my LinkedIn's locked in, looking at certifications, AWS certifications, Azure
Yeah.
certifications, stuff like that, because that really does enhance your resume. So I'd say those 2 things, building projects and kind of applying for internships and stuff like that, that's what I would focus on. For high school students over the
Yeah.
summer, projects, 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 projects. But
Definitely.
for
Load up
college
the
students,
resume.
I'd say really, really look out for internship opportunities and stuff like that over the summer because it's never too late to apply or never too
Okay.
early to apply.
Yeah. So, have you worked, any internships throughout your time at college so far?
Yeah, yeah, I have. So, actually, last summer, I interned at a company called Clear AI,
Oh, okay.
and
Nice.
and at that company, I was doing a lot of different things. I didn't come in as one specific role on one specific team. It was a lot more full fledged. I was doing a lot more back end work, kind of fixing bugs and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah,
Was
yeah.
looking at front end bugs, working on what the user sees, the user interface and stuff like that. And I was also fixing, a lot of things all around, and also working on their AI system as well. So yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so, what factors most influenced your college list and what made you rule out, certain schools?
Yeah, okay, interesting. My college list specifically was a lot more, I built it, kind of going in with the mindset that I wanted to stay in state, in
Okay.
California.
Yeah.
So I didn't apply anywhere out of state. So I stayed in California. What kind of influence that was, I really wanted to go for UCs. UCs were my target schools. I applied to a
Uh-huh.
couple Cal States, but UCs were my main target schools. Um,
Yeah.
the main thing was I was looking for what schools had really good computer science programs,
Yeah.
UC Santa Barbara has a great computer science program. Santa Cruz has a good computer science program. Obviously, Berkeley and LA have great programs. Berkeley has
Programs.
EAPS, which
Yeah.
is electrical engineering and computer science, um, and they have a great program as well. So definitely the schools that had the best computer science program and even data science programs. To be honest, I know Berkeley, it has a great data science program, which they
Data
recently
science.
started.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's also really great. But yeah, just mainly what schools have great computer science programs that are in state because I really wanted to take advantage of that in-state tuition.
Definitely. And how could we leave sunshiny California? I mean, that's just out of
Exactly.
the
I mean, the
question,
weather is
right?
beautiful, you
Yeah,
you
that's
can't.
that's just out of the question.
It's beautiful, yeah.
Yeah. So what school did you finally end up choosing? I'm sorry, I realized I never asked you where you go.
No, yeah, no, I ended up choosing UC Santa Cruz as my
UC Santa
school.
Cruz. Awesome. No,
So it's in the
nice.
Bay, a little bit south of San Jose, so it's pretty
Yeah, yeah,
nice.
yeah. Which is near me. I'm up in Davis, so
Oh, cool,
I
yeah,
wouldn't say near,
you're
kind
like
of.
2.5 hours from me, 3 hours,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Cool.
Couple hours. So not too bad.
Yeah.
Definitely. So, how would you describe the overall culture of, UC Santa Cruz, like, and just in terms of your major with like collaboration, competition, workload, like recruiting pressure, and even just like what it looks like day to day between students?
Yeah, great. All great questions. I'd say, um, day to day wise, it's not as it's not super rigorous in the sense that you're constantly on campus, you're constantly
Yeah.
going lecture to lecture. College is not what a lot of high school students think. It's a lot more independent. There's a lot more time to yourself that you have. I'm not sure if that's specifically UC Santa Cruz,
Yeah.
but I am kind of aware that a lot of colleges have a lot more of a laid back approach to it. You don't have to really go to lectures as much. You just have to show up and kind of, go when you need to and kind of absorb what you need to. So it's a lot more self-led, if that makes sense. It's not like you need to be there 7 to 3 p.m., 7 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Definitely. Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
for me, day to day, I'd say it's a lot more going to lectures that I know would, benefit me, spending a lot more time on my own, kind of building my resume, doing projects, doing homework, preparing for labs, preparing for exams, stuff like that. But yeah, overall, UC Santa Cruz has a pretty nice program. The campus is really nice. The resources are really nice. I'd say there's a lot
Uh-huh.
of great relationships you can build with professors and TAs,
Uh-huh.
and so it's really nice to kind of get involved there. I also, I have a lot of friends that tutor actually, which they make
Okay.
really good money
Nice.
tutoring as well,
Yeah, yeah.
for professors and stuff like that. So there's a lot of good opportunities in UC Santa Cruz for kind of expanding that.
So, touching on your relationship between professors and TAs, like how have
Mhm.
those kinds of relationships benefited you throughout your 4 years at Santa Cruz?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that really helps because professors have a lot of insight into the industry that you don't.
Yeah.
They just because they teach doesn't mean they haven't worked in the industry and they haven't they don't know. It's not like they don't know a lot about industry standards and how the workforce works and looks like. They have a lot more knowledge than students think. They're not just for teaching. So working with
Definitely.
professors has really helped kind of understanding how to prepare yourself both mentally and like your resume um for the corporate life, just understanding kind of the requirements of what companies are looking for, how to build out your portfolio.
Yeah, definitely.
So and also it's really helped because a lot of classes require a lot more um specialized knowledge, I'd say. There's a lot of like, data mining classes, like
Yeah,
specific data
yeah.
science courses that require a lot more, specialized knowledge. And, being close with professors when it comes to those really tough classes can really help you get through those rather than just be a student that's just kind of showing up to lecture whenever and, just trying to stay active on, Slack or Canvas and stuff
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah, definitely.
Being close to a professor really helps kind of, stay on track in the class and make sure that you're not missing anything. So I'd strongly recommend building a good relationship with TAs and professors.
Awesome, definitely.
Yeah.
So, what does a typical day look like for you in your major? And I know this may have changed throughout the course of your 4 years, but just at the moment, what is an average day for you?
Yeah, at the moment, it's a lot more, not as course intensive. I'm
Hmm.
currently in my last quarter right now,
Yeah.
so I'm done in 2 weeks.
Oh,
So right
wow.
now, it's a lot more just, I've just been kind of focusing on one course right now. I'm taking full stack web development. So kind of
Okay.
just focusing on my full project, my full, final project for that. But a day in the life would say, I'd wake up pretty early, probably like 8 or 9 AM. Um,
Hmm.
just start off by, getting most of my progress done for the day on my project because that kind of gives me a peace of mind for the rest of
Yeah,
the day.
yeah,
And then probably just going to the gym, going to lecture if I have any lectures, and that's pretty much it in terms of what
yeah.
I can say is like the main things for my day. But I would strongly recommend for people who it's not their last quarter, just keep applying,
Hmm.
keep applying, keep applying. I'm lucky to have I've recently signed an offer at a startup in the Bay, so
Oh,
kind of
awesome.
my applying grind is over.
Yeah,
So
congrats.
thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, so for people who are still applying, I'd say knock out at least 20 to 30 applications a day. Just keep
Wow.
grinding that out.
Keep grinding that.
Keep grinding that out because
Okay.
I mean, the more applications you've sent out, the better chance you have of
The
getting an
better
interview.
chances you have.
And the market's
Definitely.
pretty bad right now, so I'd really
Yeah.
recommend doing that. Yeah.
So are you I know you're graduating officially in 2 weeks and then you're walking in at the end of the spring quarter, or they're having a ceremony for you guys right now
No, that's at the end of spring quarter. Yeah, that'll be in
at the end
June.
of spring quarter.
Yes, yeah.
Okay,
So
okay.
usually you can walk either fall or spring, nothing in winter.
Yeah.
So I'll be walking spring.
Oh, awesome,
Yeah.
awesome. Nice. No, that's super cool. So, if you're allowed to say, what does your startup do that you signed for in the Bay?
That's cool. Yeah, yeah. So the company is called Ether. So what they do is basically they combine AR and AI. They combine augmented reality with artificial intelligence, essentially.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if you've heard of like meta glasses. You know,
I
it's
have,
pretty
yeah.
common. Yeah. So they essentially create an AR headset for
Okay.
frontline workers. You know, frontline workers are people who work on the front line, quite literally, on like equipment and stuff like that. They assemble
Hmm.
machinery, they're working
Yeah.
on the assembly line, right? And this can be in the automobile industry, you know, et cetera, in warehouses. So specifically, our company specifically, one of their niches is the automobile industry.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, they essentially create, and their product is a headset, an AR headset that can help these workers kind of work through their workflow of assembling equipment and stuff like that, right? That AR
Yeah.
headset can see what they're seeing, and the AI comes into play when it's able to recognize the machinery that they're working on, and it's able to guide them through their steps, you know, because back in the day, workers, I mean, even now, workers are using outdated instruction manuals, you know, with
Yeah. Yeah.
like rough diagrams that they kind of have to follow and align with the machine. They're like, what is this part? What does this do? You know? So
Yeah.
instead of that kind of that gap right there, this product, the
Hmm.
whole point of it is to bridge that gap and kind of have a headset that can be kind of your buddy with you all along through your workflow
Yeah.
and guide you on what steps, you know. And if you're stuck, you can even another functionality of it is you can video call your supervisor from the headset
From
and
the
say,
headset.
"Hey,
Okay.
I'm stuck on this piece of equipment on step, you know, 2A, 2B. Can you guide
Yeah.
me on what I'm looking at here?" You know, and the supervisor can say, "Yeah," they can draw things on the screen and you can see that in your
Oh,
headset.
awesome.
So it's
It's
quite
almost
cool.
like the really hi-fi like movies we see, and not to say that it's like a movie. It's very interesting, but
Yeah.
like they show in the movie where they have like the holographic screens, and the guy's like moving his finger and he's moving the little boxes
Yeah, no,
around.
we've seen it growing up, you know, Iron Man, you know, Tony Stark has so many
Yeah, yeah,
hologram, you know,
exactly.
kind of glasses and stuff that he moves around. You know, I wouldn't say it's that hi-fi, high tech yet, but
Yeah,
it's going in that direction for sure. Just so you
but
know,
I'm sure if you told someone about that kind of idea, 5 or 10 years ago, they would even think what you guys are doing right now is pretty hi-fi, high tech, right?
impossible.
So
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, always keeps growing.
Exactly. And it's going in that direction. Yeah, we're gonna
Yeah,
see
no,
Tony Stark
awesome.
tech soon.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting. I'm happy
Yeah.
for you.
Thank
Awesome.
you. Yeah, I appreciate that.
So I know you were talking about grinding so many applications and the chance being really low.
Right.
So, would you say that, your computer science students really need computer science internships? I mean, like, what's the solution to if you can't get a solid internship at a company like Clear AI?
Yeah, this is a question that every single student wonders. You know, like if you
Yeah,
don't get an internship, are you doomed? Are you doomed? You're
yeah,
not doomed if you don't get an internship, right? Obviously, an internship will have a huge weightage because companies
definitely.
love to see that you have job experience. You know, what are they looking for? The one thing they're looking for is have you worked before for a
Yeah,
company, right? And what have you done at that company that can help us, right? And if you are not able to land an internship, you know, that's fine. Like I said, it'll always go back to what experience do you have, right? Just because you don't
yeah,
have job experience
definitely.
doesn't mean you don't have experience, right? And that experience can come from projects. It always comes back to projects, you know. What
Yeah.
how can you show them that, hey, look, I haven't worked at a company before, but I have enough
Hmm.
experience in X, Y, and Z programming languages, working with X, Y, and Z technologies, developing X, Y, and Z, you know,
Yeah.
programs, you know, and I would be a great candidate for you because I can develop this for you. You know, you guys combine AI and AR together. I've worked on computer vision projects, so I know how computer vision works. I've worked on agentic AI, so I know how AI works. I've built AI
Yeah.
chatbots and stuff like that, so I can combine those two. I can help you guys enhance your product, stuff like that. You know, you kind of have to sell yourself as someone who has done projects before in the same technologies and stuff that they're working on, and you can learn.
Hmm.
You're a fast learner. That's how you pitch yourself. So
Yeah.
you're not doomed if you don't have an internship. You know, for the longest time, I didn't have an internship. I didn't get an internship
Yeah.
until my third year or my summer after my third year of college.
Summer after oh, so recently.
So
Okay.
recently, yeah, it was this summer, right?
This
So,
summer. Yeah.
yeah, so and that's huge. You know, you have to pitch yourself as someone who has had experience doing projects with the same technologies that that company uses, and you have to be a
Hmm.
fast learner. That's the two main things I'd say.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
So, what career paths do graduates from your programs, comp sci, generally end up in? Because I know you said you're thinking more like AI side. So is that a really big? I'm sure it's a big trend nowadays, but is that what most people end up doing, or are there like different sectors that people are taking?
Yeah, I mean, if we're looking back in the past 5 years, I'd say, the main kind of title for their role, people who graduate and get into jobs or get into the
Hmm.
workforce, they start off as a software engineer. A software
Yeah.
engineer or a software developer. Software engineer, we call it SWE, SWE, software engineer.
Yeah.
So that's what majority of graduates go into. Right now, obviously, the trend is going a lot more towards AI, just because AI is kind of taking over what people think is possible for a lot of companies,
Yeah.
right? And
Definitely.
it's driving business, it's driving a lot of a lot of the coding aspects, a lot of the back end aspects for a lot of companies. um, a lot of workflows are getting a lot more simpler because of AI. So AI is definitely the trend nowadays, so people are
Hmm.
more kind of gravitating towards AI engineers and AI
Yeah. Yeah.
software engineers and stuff like that, or even AI ML engineers, machine learning engineers, data science, data scientists,
Definitely. Yeah.
so I would say a lot of people who start off with a computer science major or who are in a computer science major, I'd say go towards software engineering. But nowadays, it's a lot more. You're seeing a lot more weightage in the AI engineer field as well.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah,
So, I know a big concern for parents is like ROI in terms of how much they're paying for the degree versus how much they're getting back out of it. So,
yeah,
what are, realistic entry level and maybe even mid-career salary ranges that you think is like people graduating from comp sci are very likely to see?
yeah. So, um, it obviously depends on what kind of company it is. If we're looking at FANG, which is
Yeah.
Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, Google,
Google. Yeah.
companies, etc. Nvidia, if we're looking at big companies like that, big tech,
Yeah.
they do pay quite a hefty entry level salary. I'd say starting from like 110 minimum to like even like 185, 190K as a
Okay.
starting
Yeah.
salary probably. Which is quite nice as an entry level student with 0 years of experience in
Experience. Yeah,
exactly,
definitely.
it's pretty insane. Um, and yeah, that's pretty much like an entry level. If we're looking at, a lot smaller companies, maybe like small startups and stuff like that,
Yeah. Yeah.
they
Yeah.
definitely can, they start around probably like 85 to 90K, and they can pay up to like 120, 130K as their
Okay.
starting salaries as well. But yeah, if we're looking at mid-career salaries to like senior positions,
Yeah.
obviously, that can get a lot more. At big tech, you can get into the 200Ks, to 250Ks,
Oh, easily. Yeah.
easily, yeah, and even 300Ks if we're looking at really, really crazy positions for senior software develop or senior, architects, software architects, or if we're looking at director of engineering
Uh-huh.
positions, they get paid quite well as well. It all depends on the company, I'd say, but yeah, it's definitely not the salary itself is not a problem at all in the field.
Okay, definitely. So
Yeah.
then in your opinion, that would be like a good investment in terms of today's market.
It would be a good investment, yes. In today's market, that's kind of an add-on.
Questionable, yeah, yeah.
It's kind of changing, but I would say the best chance you have if you're already in a computer science major, you're already getting paid for, I mean, your parents are already paying your
You're already
tuition,
paying for it.
and you're like,
Yeah.
what do I do? How can I make this the highest ROI opportunity, right? I'd really
Mhm,
say familiarize yourself with where AI is headed. Really get comfortable with agentic AI and
mhm.
how you can contribute in the agentic AI space is the biggest way you can grow your career, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So, I know that a lot of people don't necessarily receive FAFSA, or a bunch of people find themselves kind of stuck in that point where they're like too little to kind of pay for college without taking a loan, but too much to qualify for like a grant from a federally subsidized grant.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
like, what's your take on handling that? How did you find scholarships or like third party tuitions or like work or research opportunities that were kind of paid for you instead of having to pay everything out of pocket?
That's a huge one. Yeah. A lot of people, like you said, are not fortunate enough to receive that kind of
Yeah.
compensation, right? I mean, I think it's all about. I think LinkedIn's a great way of looking for opportunities from there. I never really had to really search. I'm lucky to have I have received FAFSA compensation and stuff like that. But
Okay, nice.
I think LinkedIn is a great place to keep looking for opportunities where you don't have to pay as much. And also, a huge thing is there's so many online courses and stuff like that where you can learn without paying as much. There's
Yeah, definitely.
like Pluralsight, there's so many different like Coursera. There's so many different places where you can learn so much more and pay so much less, And
Yeah.
I think certifications too are a great way of learning a lot more and what you can show on your resume, and they only cost like $100 for an exam.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but
But no, definitely, yeah.
yeah,
I mean, there's alternates always,
there's
basically.
alternate always, basically, yeah. If
Okay.
money's an issue, yes.
Yeah. So, again, kind of throwing it back to high school, what challenges did you face during your high school to college journey, and how did you overcome them?
Ooh, that's a broad question. Challenges. In
Yeah.
high school, challenges wise, yeah, I'd say a huge challenge was kind of this we're constrained to 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. kind of a thing,
Yeah,
right? And so
definitely.
with that, you actually don't have a lot of time for developing yourself as an extra, as a holistic person, with extracurricular activities and stuff like that. You're very much drained with school for half your day, and then after that,
Yeah.
you have sports or whatnot and everything, and then you have to by like 6 p.m. or 7 p.m. you're home, and you have to start on homework, right?
Yeah.
And that's pretty much your whole day, your whole week, right?
Uh-huh.
So that was a huge challenge, I think, was just being consumed by coursework. And the big question is, how can you develop yourself as someone who colleges want to admit when you're just part of this entire group of people who just have, average academics, average whatever, and they don't really have much to them, right? And
Yeah,
I think the huge thing is one of the challenges was, overcoming procrastination. I think was a huge,
definitely.
huge
Yeah.
thing. And everyone talks about this, don't procrastinate, don't procrastinate. I do it to this day. I know you do it to this day. Everyone
Yeah,
does it to this day. And you can't avoid it, because there's always going to be times where you choose certain things over other things and you end
over
up
other
procrastinating.
things, definitely. That's the
But I'd say
opportunity
looking
cost.
back, if you really, really, really wanted to make as much time as possible for building yourself and your profile as the most optimal and the most, you know, college worthy, college admitting worthy, I'd say
Mhm.
really try to not procrastinate on as much coursework as you can and try to leave at least 2 hours a day on just kind of developing projects for computer science, right?
Yeah.
And kind of developing that. So that was a huge challenge was I procrastinated too much to the point where I started on building my portfolio way too late, right?
Yeah,
And I was
definitely.
building my foundation when other people were already kind of they already had a portfolio to show for themselves, right? And that was
Mhm.
one of the challenges I had to overcome was, stop procrastinating and start. And that was a self challenge. It wasn't like a challenge. It wasn't a challenge that was,
Directly,
involved in the
yeah. Definitely.
experience.
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
was like a self challenge that I had to overcome. So, it's huge. It's like an addiction to procrastinate, but you just have to overcome it.
And it's definitely very helpful to overcome that thing in or procrastination in high school, right? Because in college, it's like very do it yourself or like you're left on your own kind of thing. Versus in high
Mhm,
school, there's like you have a
mhm.
Canvas reminder, Google Classroom reminder, your teacher's talking about it in class. Versus in college, your professors are more like, I'm gonna tell you about it once, and then it's up to you to get it done.
Exactly, yeah, college is so much more DIY. High
Yeah,
school
yeah,
is every day you see the same teachers every single day. You go from periods 1 through 6, right? And you see your
yeah,
teachers and they remind you of your assignments. They post Google Classroom announcements because the teachers care about you. In college, professors don't care about you. They do not care about
yeah.
you. You have to care about your work? So it's a
Yourself,
lot more
definitely.
self-led. Procrastination can get you really, really bad if you don't fix it early in college.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, knowing that you take procrastination as your lesson learned, what are
Mhm.
some do's and don'ts for students aiming for comp sci that you would say besides procrastination?
Yeah, one don't is procrastination for sure, but, if we're talking
Yeah.
about do's and don'ts, one do is certainly take, courses that you are going to be interested in pursuing as, as an employee. You know what I'm saying? When you start
Okay.
working,
Yeah.
courses that will help you either build a foundation for what you wanna get into or genuinely like a specialized, field that you wanna get into. Obviously, you're gonna have your prereqs, right? Your prerequisites that you have to take, in your first
Yeah.
year or your second year. But once you start going into your 3rd or 4th year, it's a lot more about choosing electives and courses that, you wanna take that will satisfy towards your major.
Yeah.
And then I'd say definitely really, really try to take courses that are really useful, for what you wanna get into and really take advantage of those. But, I know your question is, what are the do's and don'ts, right? Do's are
Hmm.
definitely take courses that will help you. Definitely start on, developing your projects and stuff like that early on, and try to have a variety of projects. Try to kind of show off your portfolio in the sense that I know a good amount of languages, not a crazy amount. You don't know 15 languages, right? But
Yeah, yeah,
choose a good solid like 3 to 4 languages that you are really, really solid at, and have some full-fledged projects in all those. And like 3 to 4 technologies as well, whether that's React, like front end, or back end. You have to know SQL, you have to know, how databases work and how stuff like that
yeah,
works.
definitely.
So have a solid arsenal of projects that you can show off on your GitHub. And I would say those are the main do's. Um, Definitely another huge do would be network a lot, a lot, a lot, a lot.
Okay. Yeah.
Really, really put yourself out there. Be active on LinkedIn, even if it's as small as reacting to someone's post, right?
Hmm.
Or, just messaging people on LinkedIn, or just,
Yeah.
commenting
Cold
on
emailing,
people's posts.
whatever.
That just
Yeah.
shows that you're active on LinkedIn. That just shows that you didn't just make a LinkedIn just to make it because people make it, right?
Yeah.
And you're active there because you
You
are
care
genuinely
about
trying
it.
to keep up with what is going on, right? And what people
Yeah,
are doing,
definitely.
how things are advancing. So stay active on LinkedIn. Really constantly update your LinkedIn portfolio with your projects, with your certifications, with a lot of things like that. I'd say that's a huge thing. That's a huge do. Don'ts are all of what I said. Just don't do, like, don't not stay active on LinkedIn.
Yeah,
Don't
definitely.
not do projects. Don't just go into college thinking it's just going to be lectures and homework and you just have to pass your classes. It's not going to be like
Yeah.
that. College is really teaching you how to be someone who can prove to companies, right, and who can work at companies long term, especially for computer science students. It's really, really
Uh-huh.
trying to show, okay, once you graduate college, you need to be able to, sustain yourself long term at a company. How can you grow
Yeah.
at a company? How can you prove to them that you have the skill set that they require, right? And that doesn't mean just going to lecture, doing your projects, and calling it a day, right?
Yeah.
It really means constantly being on the learn, you know, looking up YouTube videos or new courses. So do that for sure, and don't just slack off. Don't just come to college and because freshman year you're gonna slack off a lot. It's gonna be your
Yeah.
courses are gonna be pretty easy. You're gonna get carried away with parties and stuff like that. And I'd strongly recommend, obviously party, but keep yourself grounded, and kind of look at yourself like, hey, if this is what I'm doing in the first year, what do I want to look like when I'm in my fourth year?
Yeah.
And how do I start on doing that now?
And try
Right?
to find the balance.
And try to find the balance and start early. Start early, start early, start early for sure.
Awesome. So now this one is aimed, more towards the parents who are listening.
Yeah.
What do families, in your opinion, tend to like emphasize? So, like when you were going through the process of applying and even just when you were in high school, what did your parents kind of nag you about the most or tell you about the most that you feel like didn't really matter for student success now that you're in college?
Yeah, good question. Honestly, if I'm being honest, my parents really didn't nag me specifically on certain things. They were never like, Beta, you need to do this, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
wasn't really like that. They did emphasize that whatever I kind of put my mind to, whatever I put my time into, to just make sure that I commit to it. That's all.
Okay,
So
yeah,
obviously academically, like, you're taking the courses that you're taking the APs that you're taking, don't take them lightly. That's the
yeah.
number one thing that my mom or dad said was don't take what you're doing lightly. Just commit to it. Um, so if I had to say things that I should have spent more time on, honestly, I would have spent more time on my academics just because they do matter, even though colleges are looking at more of a holistic approach of,
Hmm.
your extracurriculars, your projects, et cetera, et cetera. Your
Yeah.
academics still do matter a lot, and they do matter the most, more than anything. So I definitely would have I would have wanted to spend a lot more time on, um, making my GPA a lot higher, or just trying to show off my academic persona as someone who is a
Hmm.
lot more capable, if that makes
Definitely.
sense.
Yeah.
I don't want it to look like, because at some point, if you're not as good in academics, it shows that you're trying to compensate for yourself through your extracurriculars. Hey,
Definitely.
I have a pretty bad GPA, but at least I sang for a couple of years.
I did this,
It-
this, and this like that. Yeah.
so it's not, you really do want to emphasize, that you are an academic student. You're really good in your academics. So
Yeah.
obviously emphasize that no matter how much they say holistic, whatever. Definitely do that, and take the SAT if you're targeting privates and out of state schools. I think the SAT is a great way to kind of
Definitely.
ground
Yeah.
yourself for 3 months to 5 months to just prepare for an exam. That'll prepare you if you're going into more hardcore research and stuff going forward, where you have to take a lot more exams. For medical students, for example, they have to
For
take
exams,
a
yeah.
lot more exams going forward, right? So I'd strongly recommend, like, just lock in academically is a
Definitely,
huge thing early
definitely.
on. Yeah, which
Yeah,
I wish I did.
awesome. So, where do you see the field of like comp sci and AI in the next 10 years in terms of like technological shifts and like policy and even ethical considerations?
Yeah, good question. Computer science is, I mean, it's been a field for so long. It's been growing for so long.
Yeah.
But in the recent day and age, a lot of people, I'm sure you've heard so many, Instagram reels or podcasts about people talking about, is AI going to steal our jobs? Is AI
Yeah.
going to take away our jobs? And, that's where this whole thing is headed, right? And the question's answered as in, it's AI doesn't take away jobs in the context that people think, right? AI doesn't
Hmm.
just replace humans, right? It can
Yeah.
replace mundane work that humans do, but ultimately, humans are still needed to kind of run AI, right?
Yeah,
They're still
definitely.
needed to navigate AI, to train AI, to kind of show AI what to do and what not to do, to help AI get smarter. We can utilize AI, not to take our
Hmm.
jobs, but to help
Yeah.
do our jobs, if that makes sense, right? Um, so definitely in the next 5 years, I'd say AI is definitely gonna take over a lot more in terms of our daily life. I mean, it's influencing our field right now in terms of, like, how we can program. We used to start off hard coding just programming everything ourselves,
Everything.
but now
Yeah.
we have ChatGPT to help us, debug code. When we look back at our code, we can say, "Hey, what's going on here?" And it understands our project context and everything, and it's just going to get more and more integrated from there. There's recent things coming out like Codex, like GitHub Copilot. There's a lot of tools that are integrated into your coding workspace, where you can literally
Yeah.
just open a chat on the side of your coding workspace and just say, "Hey, look at this file. What's going on in this file? I'm not understanding this error. I'm getting a type error here. Can you understand what's happening?" And it'll look through your entire project content. It's just, it's quite cool how integrated it's getting.
Yeah.
It started off as kind of like a general chat bot, and now it's integrated into our daily lives. We're
Generalized.
seeing
Definitely.
AI in so many different ways. Deep faking people's faces. Computer vision wise, it's quite insane. We're seeing AI videos, AI like Sora AI. We're seeing so many different like AI videos and stuff like that coming
Definitely.
out,
Yeah.
right? So in terms of that, I think the field is going crazy. Um, but like I said, in the next 5 years or so, for people in computer science, um, AI is a lot more. I think the biggest issue is going to be an ethic issue, like just how ethically can you use AI and what can AI
Yeah.
have access to,
Definitely.
is where things are getting headed, right? Or things are heading. Um, so yeah, I'd say that's pretty interesting. I don't have much to say on that because I think we're in the golden point right now, which is where we're still trying to figure out
Like
how
the pivot. Yeah.
we're in the pivot right now. So I'm kind of just waiting to see how much can we do with AI to the point where it doesn't get concerning, and how much can we give,
Definitely. Yeah.
Um, so that's kind of where it's headed, which I'm still on the lookout for. I'm still kind of curious on how AI is gonna go in that direction, but a lot of
Yeah.
main companies like Meta and Google are, utilizing AI in such crazy ways, and I wanna see how they proceed with that, where and they're still managing, ethical uses.
Yeah. So, with that being said, where do you see yourself personally in 10 years?
Oh, yeah, great question. Um I haven't thought about it as much as I probably should have, but, in 10 years, that's I would be 31, almost 32. I
Okay.
would see myself hopefully, at a major position at a pretty good company, whether that's a startup or big tech.
Yeah.
I do see myself working long term at the startup that I just accepted the offer to. So I do
Hmm.
want to kind of build my career in the AI space, obviously grow as an AI engineer, um, and just keep kind of uh, submerging myself in the field of AI,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Definitely.
And becoming so, just I'm very passionate about AI, so I do wanna grow in that space, and I do wanna become ideally like a director, of a startup or of a company where I'm really kind of leading the AI engineering team and, that entire endeavor for that company.
Yeah.
Um,
Definitely.
hopefully in there, and I do also want to, in 10 years, in between those 10 years, I do want to explore different business ventures. I do want
Yeah.
to, grow kind of my I do have a startup. I have an agency, like a marketing agency that I started like a
Uh-huh.
couple years ago. And so I
Okay.
do want to continue growing that um overall. So I'd say those two are kind of
Definitely.
what I want to focus on in the next 10 years.
Yeah. No, that's great.
But 10
Yeah.
years is a long time. I mean, it's a whole decade. So I don't know
And it's hard to
what I'm
say,
gonna
yeah.
do.
I mean, like, imagine yourself 10 years ago versus now, right? Imagining when you were 11 versus at 21. It's
Yeah, I mean,
crazy.
the growth is crazy. In 11, what
Yeah,
were we
yeah.
in? I want to say sixth grade, right?
Like fifth or sixth grade.
Fifth or
Yeah.
sixth grade. Yeah, no, that's I would never have imagined, the person I am today. Just
No, definitely.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So, looking back on your journey, what are you like the most proud of out of everything you've accomplished so far?
Okay. The thing that I'm most proud of doesn't have to do with computer science. Um,
Okay.
I would say it's definitely my singing career, I think.
Okay,
And
that's
if that's on
cool.
the side, I think I'm really proud of that because I stuck to it ever since I think like 4 or 5 years old was when I first started singing,
Wow.
and, I continued that and I stuck to that, and I'm sure that's a huge part of kind of my holistic, profile that I built for myself on my college portfolio,
Yeah.
and that made up a huge part of it, but I'm really proud of that. I'm really proud of, sticking to Boy Scouts and becoming an Eagle Scout. I think that taught me so
Uh-huh.
much about life. Overall, I'd probably put that above singing in terms of how much that kind of prepared me for life as a whole. Um, it just kind of taught me to
Yeah.
constantly try new things, to constantly be on the lookout for new opportunities. In Boy Scouts, I mean, we've done so many different things. Archery, we hiked the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
We went whitewater raft. I almost died whitewater rafting. I mean, it's
Wow.
insane the kind of opportunities that I experienced and
Yeah.
had in Boy Scouts as an Eagle Scout. So looking back, I think that's huge. My Eagle project was um, I basically I assembled a team of Boy Scouts and
Uh-huh.
created a video for autism awareness, and
Okay, that's cool.
that was really really cool to see my fellow scouts kind of create their own scripts, and I was guiding them in creating their scripts and
Yeah,
kind of
definitely.
filming this, and we broadcasted that on our high school's television channel. So
Uh-huh.
it was really nice to kind of lead that. So it taught me leadership skills, it taught me communication skills, networking skills, just overall like a resilient outlook on life is what I'd say is what Boy Scouts gave me. And so those two kind of extracurriculars I'm a lot more proud of
Definitely.
than anything I've done in computer science. Computer
Yeah.
science, anyone can sit down and program and code or whatever, right? But
Definitely, yeah. And I
what
think, there's a lot to be said about your greatest merits, or at least what you personally are most proud of,
yes.
being outside of just the academic world. I think there's a lot to be said about being like, again, like a holistic person, being well-rounded, and
Right.
like, in terms of cricket, like being an all-rounder of life, right?
Mhm, mhm. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
So
just being an
awesome.
all-rounder
I'm
is
very
the
happy
most
to hear
important thing.
that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad that was your answer. I like that. So thank you.
Thank you,
But
yeah, for sure.
how has your perspective on success and failure changed since starting college?
Whew, huge, huge. Very, very, very much
Yeah,
changed.
I'd
Yeah,
imagine, right?
yeah, starting off, you're like, you have to be, like, really, really good. Like, you have to be perfect in your classes and stuff, and also
Yeah,
that also is balanced with a very naive mindset of, "Hey, we're freshmen, like, nothing matters," like, "We have a lot of time to get a job. We have a lot of time to do X, Y, Z, whatever." But,
definitely.
um, going into college, you do kind of come in with a very intimidated kind of mindset, right? You're younger than everyone around you, especially me. When I joined my freshman year at UC Santa Cruz, I joined an acapella team, like a South
Okay,
Asian
yeah,
acapella team, and everyone on the team was way older than me, and a lot of them, I'd say, like 80 to 90% of them were computer science majors. And that was nice
cool.
because I had that early guidance, but
Yeah,
it also did give me imposter syndrome because I'd look at these guys and I'd be like, "Hey, these guys are doing everything, right? They're on this
yeah,
acapella team. They're excelling academically, right? They're doing so well and they're applying for internships. They're on the lookout for this and that and they have so many projects on there. I have nothing. All I'm doing is
yeah,
just on an acapella team and I have a couple projects and whatever whatnot, but I have so much more to do, right? And so
yeah.
I think back then I was a lot more afraid of failure or afraid of not being enough. Um,
Mhm.
but then again, don't waste your time being afraid and start actually building. So it
Yeah,
always gets back to success can only be built. You have to work towards it, right? So you see all these people,
definitely.
you can't use them as examples of, oh my God, I'm not doing anything and they're doing everything. You have to be like,
Yeah.
okay, they're doing all this. Let me get started on that as well. And let
And
me
what can
ask
I
them
get
for
to?
advice, right?
Yeah,
And so I was, very fortunate to have so many computer science majors around me, and I'd see these acapella, I'd compete with these acapella members, right? And so
Yeah.
I would be talking to them almost every single day, and we would share so much knowledge about the industry and industry standards. You have to start lead coding. That's something I
Definitely.
also didn't mention throughout this entire thing is
Yeah.
lead coding. That's super duper important for computer science majors,
Yeah.
which I started in high school, but I didn't take seriously until early college, which is really, really important. And acapella members, my acapella team is they're a huge reason for why they stressed lead code a lot. Lead code, lead code, lead code. So that
So
really
what
helped as
what is
well.
that?
Yeah, lead code is basically it's a platform for interview prep, right? And the way
Uh-huh.
technical interviews work for technical interview prep specifically. So the way technical interviews work in the CS field when you're applying for software engineering positions is
Yeah.
they will ask you a lead code style question, which is basically essentially just a logic problem where you have to kind of write like maybe anywhere from like 15 to like 60 to 70 lines of code probably.
Yeah.
Um, in like 20 to 30 minutes of a time frame, and the interviewer gives you a question. For example, they'll give you an array of names, right? Like Bob, Sally, whatever, whatever, whatever.
Yeah.
And the problem might be as simple as, hey, just take this list of names and sort it out from alphabetical order, and you have to write 15 to 20 lines of code or something like that just to sort those out, right? And it's just simple stuff like that, right? And that
Yeah.
really does teach you to build logic skills and to get comfortable in one specific programming language. And what a lot of people do, what a lot of people make the mistake of doing is they don't start doing lead code until way later on, until they start applying for jobs, right? They're like, oh, now
Yeah.
it's time to apply for jobs. So let me start lead coding so I can prepare for the jobs in case I get a word back from any of these companies. It's not going to be enough. Like you need to have a strong foundation in lead code specifically.
Yeah.
And it's been the
Definitely.
industry standard
Okay.
for so long. For interviews. Even interviewers themselves, when they ask you a question, they say, "Hey, have you lead coded before?" And
Yeah.
and people say, "Yeah, yes or no,"
It's like
right?
an
And
expectation almost.
it's almost like an expectation. It's if you're applying
Yeah.
for that job, you better have lead coded. So, so yeah, I'd say start on that as early as possible. But I mean, yeah, going back to your question, which is like success and failure, I think that's a huge thing. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah,
And I think, that's also an element of success is that being the youngest in a room full of mostly like juniors and seniors means like you're already ahead of the crowd, right? Like even being in a position where you can get like so much advice from so many people who are that much ahead of you is
absolutely.
like
Yeah, I think that's
also a
huge.
form of success.
Yeah, I think early on, I unintentionally ended up surrounding myself with people who were older than me,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and that makes a huge, huge difference because when you surround yourself with just freshmen, when you're a freshman, all of you guys are just in party mode. You're
Like
just in
everyone's
party
kind
mode.
of clueless. Yeah.
Everyone's clueless, confused, and because they're confused, that kind of turns into party mode because it's like, oh, we don't need to worry about that right now.
Yeah,
We
we
can
have
just have
time.
fun. We have time. We have time. We have time. But we have time turns into we don't have much time
We
really,
don't have
really
time left. Yeah,
really fast.
definitely.
So surrounding yourself with people who are older than you, I think really, really helps because they ground you. They tell you what you need to hear. They tell
Yeah,
you, hey man, like really start lead coding early because I didn't and you should.
you
And
should.
now I'm in the same
Awesome.
position. So I'm saying the same thing. So yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
if you're advising a student who feels like behind or unsure about pursuing computer science, what would you tell them? Like, what would your advice to them be?
Yeah. Someone who's unsure about starting or have they started the major yet? They've kind of committed to it or they're thinking about joining.
They're thinking about it. So let's say maybe they're towards their junior year of high school. Senior year summer is about to start. They're about to start applying and they're unsure.
Cool. Yeah, that makes sense. Um, I would say really evaluate what you want to do with your life, right? And
Yeah.
that's a really broad question. It's like, what? I don't know. As a junior in high school, you're
And it's
probably like, I
scary
don't
to
know what
figure
I
out
want to
once
do.
you're young. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but really think like, hey, computer science, the major itself is a lot of math, right?
Yeah.
Can you do math? First off, right? Are you good at math? Okay. Do you like doing math? Right? You might not be good at math, but if you like doing it, you can get good at it, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes you can be good at it, but you don't like doing it, right? So vice versa, it goes both ways. But can you do math? And can you do math for a while? Is a huge question. And the main thing is after doing all that math and after passing all those math classes and all that, do you see yourself getting into programming long term? Can you program? Can you write programs? Can you complete projects end to end, which means like from start to finish, Can
Yeah.
you complete projects on your own? Can you collaborate in group projects where you would have a small role where you're working on either the front end or the back end or some part of that project, right? Can you see yourself fit into that? Can you, meet weekly with your group members and collaborate on code projects, like stuff like that? That's huge because that's how the workforce works. I mean, quite literally, you're going to be on a team and you're going to be working on some kind of a feature on some product, right? And that
Yeah,
feature will take
definitely.
maybe, let's say, 3 months to develop, right? And you'll meet every single week on certain milestones for that feature, right? Et cetera,
Hmm.
et cetera. So
Yeah,
can you see yourself doing that for 20 to 30 years, right? I'm not saying you're not gonna get it or, grow to a
you're not
different
going to
position in that
change.
time.
Yeah.
Not like you're not gonna change, but, just as a software engineer, can you do that for a long period of time, right? And that's the main question. And because going into the computer science field means that you're going to go into software engineering at some point. That's quite literally 90 to 95% of people. That's what they do with a computer science major, right? Some people go
Yeah.
into the hardware side, some people go into like the electrical engineering side, but that's a lot more influenced by taking, an electrical engineering major or different kinds of majors, like a computer engineering major, for example. That's a lot more hardware focused, but computer science is a lot more math and software focused. So I'd say if you're going into computer science, really kind
Hmm.
of think, hey, can I do math? Do I like math? Can I program? Can I do projects? Can I build my portfolio of coding projects? And do I like doing that? Do I like just frankly, do I like doing that? Because if you don't like doing it, it's gonna be hard to do that because it's a lot of rigorous projects that you need to get through.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, with that being said, I think that we had an amazing conversation. There was a lot of great advice that we heard from you. And so, with that being said, thank you so much for your time, Anish. And to all of our viewers, that concludes another episode of Ed Counselor, your one stop shop for all things college, career, and success related.
Cool. Thank you so much for having me. That was a
Yeah,
great talk. Yeah.
of course.